Down, the speakers are already here. We'll be starting the session. Kindly settle down at the earliest. I urge everyone to kindly wrap up the lunch soon so that we can start our session. It's a kind request to everyone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome you all after a break. The upcoming session is on Next Gen GCCs, India's strategic edge in being a global hub. Ladies and gentlemen, with a great round of applause, let's welcome our speakers to the stage. Mr. Praveen Kumar, CEO and Managing Director, Barclays. Mr. Tanay Kedial, Managing Director, Allstate India. Mr. Ganpat Anchalia, Site Head, Novartis Corporate Center, Hyderabad. Mr. Sanjay Sikda, Vice President and Center Head, Samsung Global Delivery Service. To set the context and formally open the session, I would like to request Mr. Rajiv Memani, President Designate, to kindly address the gathering and take the session forward. Sir.
Very good afternoon to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a very interesting session. The next generation of GCCs, and it's really noteworthy now to see that how GCCs are becoming, you open a newspaper, any article, any conference, anything, GCCs are much more center stage. And I think they are becoming a very integral part of the global supply chain. Strategically for global corporations, this is becoming one of the most valuable assets. And also the interdependence of what's happening around the world is coming to play. Back in the day when the GCC started in 1990s, early 2000, it was really a cost center, some of the back office, cost center, some basic processes, systems, mainly in technology, but some in HR, finance coming through. Then you roll forward 15 years back, you started seeing some of the centers of excellence coming through, some more transformative work, and people started seeing what's the value creation that GCCs are doing as compared to just cost and just reducing just as cost arbitrage. So people, as the saying was, people came for cost, but they stayed for value, and more GCCs started coming for values. And now we are seeing a much more interesting phase where GCCs are becoming, they're not outposts, but they're becoming a very integral part of the global corporations setup. Some of the leadership of the global organization now sits out of India through their GCCs. Some of the leading edge work in innovation, in AI, in R&D, some core business work is being done from India. So for India, I think GCCs have become a very, very important strategic industrial part. And I think there are many factors that will be impacting the evolution of GCCs. We'll discuss some of them, whether it's AI, whether it's some of the current geopolitics and everything else. And today we have almost about 1,900 global capability centers in India. Almost 30% of the revenue that comes from technology comes from GCCs, and it's almost employing 2 million odd people. And if I look at even the current budget, the last year's budget, for the first time, we saw the finance minister talking about GCCs and their strategic importance. And I know she's very keen to engage with GCCs to understand how she can solve for some of the issues. The most interesting thing that I find is that a lot of industries have come through, IT services industry, through GCCs, whether it's anything to do with real estate, commercial real estate, facility management, some areas of healthcare, logistics. So the Indian economy has gained immensely, apart from sheer human talent and others, has gained immensely from the GCCs. And many key ecosystem linkages, I'm sure we'll talk about that, but talent and the availability of skilled manpower at scale is very critical for the success of GCCs, and that's one area that there is a lot of engagement. Likewise, availability of quality real estate, which I think, especially in some cities in India, has been truly phenomenal, like Bangalore, Hyderabad and others. Data and connectivity, which also I think India has done a really good job, and I think that's also playing to our strength. The urban ecosystem is somewhere I think still there is a little bit of struggle, and I think how the GCCs evolve from going to tier 1 cities to tier 2, tier 3 cities, I think that's something we'll learn. CIA has been, in the last few years as this trend has taken up, has been very focused on what's happening on the GCC side. We have a committee, all of them are members of the GCC committee. We also have people from outside of the GCCs, the legal, real estate, telecom, education. So it tries to address not only the GCC issues, but also the ecosystem issues, and address areas like, how can we attract more global firms? How do we do local, what is a model state policy framework? How do we do more location toolkits for location assessment for GCCs and everything else. So we have an interesting panel, and it'll be good to get insights from the panel as how do they see the evolution of GCCs and what are the opportunities that they are seeing. I will quickly introduce the panelists, and maybe I'll just introduce the first one, and then we'll go and we'll introduce. Let me start with Praveen. Praveen is the CEO and Managing Director for Barclays Global Services. He's responsible for managing Barclays operations across Pune, Chennai, Noida, Mumbai, and Bangalore. And he has led many transformation initiatives in his various roles in Barclays, driving automation, productivity through centers of excellence, and is fundamentally engaged with the global leadership of Barclays to see how we move things forward. Praveen, I'll hand it over to you. If you can make introductory remarks, and I'll go to each of the panelists for 5 minutes or so, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Sure. So, so first of all, let me just start by thanking CII and Rajiv for hosting us and bringing this panel together. For the longest time ever, I used to interact with folks, and GCC used to stand for Gulf Cooperation Council. So I think it's great to see that the global capability centers are becoming mainstream, and and the fact that because we are a little bit an industry which has been under the radar, because we kind of work with our parent organization and are not that visible in the media and outside, but certainly within the company, we are at the heart of whatever happens. I think over the years, the way our industry has evolved, and particularly a little bit about Barclays, financial institution headquartered in the UK and more than 330-year-old, and now we are at a point where 1 in 3 employees within Barclays is in India. So it's at a point we are about just over 30,000 people across the country, servicing all parts of the bank. So we are really a microcosm and really the engine that powers the global organization. So we'll talk more about it as we go along, but certainly glad to be here and to share perspectives on how the industry is evolving. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, I would like to introduce Tanay. Tanay is the Managing Director for Allstate in India. He's had experiences for 25 years across multiple geographies and domains. And as the Managing Director at Allstate, Tanay oversees both technology and operations delivery. And Allstate has about 8,000 people in India. So over to you, Tanay.
Thank you, Rajiv. And thank you to CII in there as well. I will echo what Praveen said. We are the vogue thing for the day. AI and GCC, no meal is complete unless those 2 words are being used in there as well. And I think this is also a reflective of how it's happening across the globe. When the GCCs really started in the country, and you could argue where, when, and how, cost continued to play a very important thing in the equation. I'm not suggesting that cost is not important today, but really it's talent that's been driving what we see happening in and around us. If I speak for Allstate, we've been in the country for the last 12, 13 years, and we really followed our vendor partners into the country, just looking at the way talent here it is. And to start off, it started off on the technology side. Allstate is an insurance company. If I look in the BFSI space, a lot of the large banking companies have established themselves, but insurance, not as many. Yes, in the life space, but in PNC, which is where we are, not as many in there as well. But in the last 4 or 5 years, what we have been observing, especially around COVID and post, is that the world has really become flat. A lot of things in the past that we would think that is not possible suddenly became very real and happening in and around us. So for us, the last 4 or 5 years has just not been around scale, but also translating strategy at scale. It is also around following through that diverse set of digitally fluent workforce that we have in the country. And I think that's really what is driving for us in the future. I don't think it's really going to be a race in terms of saying what the scale is, but it'll going to be a journey to help make the future of workforce possible.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think early on people came for cost, then it was value, and now it's talent. I think it's that graph is becoming clearer. I will now request Ganpat. Ganpat leads Novartis in Hyderabad, which is really is the largest corporate center for Novartis and has approximately 8,500 people. I know that for pharma companies globally, this is quite a template. And Novartis was one of the quite unique ones that were doing some of their really core, apart from the normal operations, some of their core operations in Hyderabad. So Ganpat, over to you if you can make some.
So thank you, CII, for giving the opportunity, and thank you, Rajiv, for introducing. I think for Novartis, the journey of GCC started way back in 2000 when we started with a 20-people team in Mumbai, actually, with a data scientist team. It was just to explore the Y2K era. And I think what our corporate team realized the power and the potential of the talent from India. And soon, over a couple of years, the center became 200-300 people. And that's the time we decided to move to Hyderabad because the experience of the fabulous talent and the commitment and the passion and the learning mindset that comes from India is unmatchable. And I think that led for our corporate to decide to bring core activities. So we were one of the setups that started actually more with the core, hardcore work on the research and development side. Today, close to about 1/3 of our drug development teams worldwide, they operate from India. We have a wet lab center. We have now also got a molecular research center that is very close to the heart of the core drug discovery and the innovation process. And it's heartening to see, I think, the way the industry, the local ecosystem of pharma companies, they all help, in a sense, to bring quality talent to some of the setups such as ours, and that has really helped us to scale. I think one of the big positive what I see in this whole setup is the knowledge of the core innovation is also coming to the country. And I'm sure a lot of talent that works for Novartis, I'm sure many of them at times will venture out and bring a lot of innovation for the country as well. So it's great to see that the knowledge and the passion that the country has a potential from the young talent perspective is definitely attracting corporates such as Novartis. We're 8,500 people, and a large part of the work on the research side is taking place in India.
Excellent. We've covered a lot of the western side of the world, but I think this phenomena is largely for most of the Western companies, but we are now seeing some companies from Asia, setting up GCCs, and one of the prime examples has been Samsung. Sanjay Sikdar is the Vice President and Center Head for Samsung, and he's extensively worked in AI, advanced analytics, digital transformation, and is driving a lot of the initiatives in Samsung. So Sanjay, it'll be good to get your comments and insights.
So good afternoon. So I think just after lunch, it's a difficult thing. So keep yourself all awake. And so I actually, in Samsung, we have started our GCC around 4 to 5 years back. And at that time, we used to call it GDC, Global Delivery Center. And I remember when I started my career, we used to call it ODC, like Offshore Delivery Center. So from ODC to GCC, it was a big kind of transformation. And as you know, like Samsung, you think it is only of mobile, but when we, as part of our GCC, when we support actually all Samsung subsidiaries worldwide, like it can be Samsung Construction, it can be Samsung Hospitality, Samsung Semiconductor, and Samsung Overseas different subsidiaries as well. So that was a kind of surprise to me when I started the GCC. And our primary theme was built GCC on 4 pillars, like for which we have focused on India. Like 4 pillars, one is capability, 4 Cs we call it, capability, capacity expansion, then there is continuity. Continuity is very important, continuous innovation, continuity because first year is very exciting for any GCC. It will be more of a honeymoon period. But after that, keep the momentum, that is the important thing. And the last but not the least for Samsung, because as I told, it's a Korean company, so it's a cultural integration with India. And that is one of the very important factors for us. So for these whole 4 pillars, 4 C factors, we are actually trying to expand. Right now, we have close to around 1,000 plus people in our GCC, based in Gurgaon, but obviously we'll try to see the other areas or locations as well. And additionally, we have main focus to be the Gen AI hub, as all of us know, that focus on Gen AI for productivity improvement and digital transformation. Thank you.
Thanks. Maybe what I'll do is I'll pose a set of questions. Some of you have covered some of this, some of you haven't, and maybe we'll go over this four, five times over. But let me start with the first question, and maybe we can start from the left-hand side corner, Ganpat. Maybe if you can go. The question I have, and as I said, some of it was covered, some of you didn't entirely cover. If you engage with your global stakeholders today, and if you reflect back on the journey, what are the few things that really attracted them or still continues to attract them to have maybe their most significant headcount in a country where at least in 3 out of the 4 cases, the domestic market is not that significant. For Samsung it is, but for the other 3, probably the domestic market is not that significant. And the second part of the, so what, if you reflect on this, what really attracted them and continues to do that? And the second is, as you look at probably, as what Chandra said, the generational impact. You can have yearly impact, decadal impact, but he felt AI and agentic AI was something that impacts once in a generation. It has tremendous opportunities for GCCs, but it also has, potentially, at least from a country standpoint, some challenges. Where are you on that journey today, and how are you evolving, and what do you see your, when you look at your parent company, when you look at headquarters, how are they viewing India in the light of what's happening in AI and agentic AI?
So from the way the enterprise look at Novartis Hyderabad is, I think one of the key theme that comes out is the problem-solving ability of the young talent and the digital savviness. I think this comes across multiple times. And then the another piece that all of us experience is the passion and commitment is extremely high. The can-do attitude, not to look at time, many times to solve issues and challenges that requires huge amount of speed and out-of-box thinking. That is where we have seen our setup is valued a lot more. We are no more seen, I think about 10 years back, we moved away from more tactical transactional roles. Most of the roles and the talent we have is functional experts. So clearly, I think we have a value proposition that is very strong to bring in more new age solutions and speed at the table. From the AI piece, agentic AI or Gen AI, indeed, I think it's the focus area for all of us because it is the one thing that is going to disrupt the way we work, the way we operate. I think the good part for India is we are also seeing, at least within Novartis, as an engine that will bring this for the enterprise. Being in an ecosystem which is very heavy technology driven and the knowledge and the talent which is very savvy in these technologies, I think we can be early adopters of the technology and also disruptor as well and scale this for the enterprise. This is how at least Novartis Enterprise is looking at Novartis Hyderabad to bring it for them because we are closer to the market and the talent and the technology as well.
Yeah, so look, I think to the first part of the question, Barclays started in India in 2007 as global services. And I think the journey that we have been on is very similar to most GCCs, right? And I've personally been at 4 banking GCCs. So I started with very task-oriented outsourcing and sort of moving work, which is very sort of task-oriented into India, largely for cost reasons. And over time, I think since 2014-15, it pivoted to scale. And then the organization started building scale, and it tasted what that the India organization is a great talent, great capability, and can we do more of it? And I think the pandemic really shifted the needle in terms of focus on value. And it created a much more level playing field for a sustained period of time. All of us were working remotely. It didn't really matter where you were. And, and where we are right now, I think, from that execution bias, where people were really looking at India to get things done and in a very predictable way, it's now much moved more towards industrialization of processes, eliminating waste, and also in pockets starting to look at innovation. So particularly in our industry, in consumer banking, digital banking in India is fairly advanced. Lots of innovation happening in the market, and there are ideas that our teams are able to bring in and implement in markets in US and UK. For example, the level of QR code adoption in India is like way higher than what you will see in other parts of the world. So, just driving some of those innovations which are in the domestic market and, building use cases around them on, for example, a lot of our mobile adoption in the US has been on the back of embedding QR codes everywhere and helping consumers in that market start to use that in a way. So, so there are, where we are now, it's firmly in a place where lots and lots of capability, deep talent hub, very strong sort of focus on execution, as well as driving innovation in pockets. To the point around AI, I think AI adoption in financial services, at least I see it in sort of 3 phases. So let's say 7, 8 years back, 9 years back, we started using AI, machine learning, and fraud detection, and real-time fraud detection, and these were standard machine learning models. And then I think with the advent of Gen AI in November 2022, you had a whole different paradigm shift in the way that AI could be used. And we are a big users of Copilot, for example. So Copilot all over, Microsoft Copilot for right from taking notes to driving productivity through GitLab Duo of our coding, technology population. And there are many, many use cases of Copilot. But I think where to the point on agentic AI, which I think we are still sort of dipping our toes into, and we haven't really adopted in production, I think that has a real, because given that an agentic AI is able to understand your intent and then learn from that, as you sort of go into production. So a lot of our routine activity, routine operations potentially will get automated. And I think it's for us as industry, given that, we have the 2 ingredients that are required for wider adoption of agentic AI. We have a lot of subject matter expertise. We have people who have been with us for 15 years, 10 years, really understand our legacy environment. And we have equally a young population, very, very well versed in AI and, and technology savvy. So I think combination of the 2, we can really spearhead a lot of adoption of AI and agentic AI in the wider organization.
So continuing the journey, and I think it becomes more and more difficult as we come to this side of the table, because much of the journey is a shared journey in terms of how the GCCs have gone. But if I speak specifically for Allstate and for my own personal experience in there as well, we weren't the first GCC as far as Allstate is concerned in India. So yes, I talked about the fact that we followed our vendor partners into the country, but close to 25, 26 years back, Allstate started their first GCC in Northern Ireland, and we still continue to have that there. And so we had already experienced of how the global delivery would work, and in terms of how we can really follow through and get talent in a much better way. But fast forward that, having started in 2012, 2013 here in the country, fast forward that to COVID and the period around that, I think a key reason for us to have accelerated this journey has also been reflective of what Allstate is going through, what we call as a transformative growth. And for insurance, especially if you are in auto and home insurance, a large part of the US geography is driven out of exclusive agents. when you go to an agent and the agent essentially advises you of the insurance to take. But last 4 or 5 years, Allstate has really flipped to get a direct channel up and going with its customer. And so on one side, you had deep relationships with agents. You had people who had 20, 25, 30 years of experience in Allstate. But suddenly you were also needing people who were coming with a fresh set of ideas, a fresh pair of eyes, and a way to do business in a very different way. And so India really helped us build out and shift away from our traditional way of doing business into a more product-led operating model. So when we talk about digital product teams, these aren't really only technology teams. And yes, we have managing engineers and engineers who work in that form, but we also have digital product managers who are looking at it from a different angle. And a lot of that has been where the GCC journey for us has been, to bring about change in an organization that is steeped in value, that is steeped in culture, and that is steeped in the way we have done things in a legacy way. So we've been a strong change agent to our parent organization, trained by our own thinking. And what I mean by that is, insurance business is very different from some of the other businesses. We are traditionally a very data-led, modeled business because our actuarial work really is doing a lot of that data crunching and trying to project the future and get what it is going. But insurance is also different from, my past. I've worked in banking quite a bit, where in the initial part of the engagement in the customer journey is where you have a lot of decision-making and underwriting that's happening. And then it's just customer service. For insurance, it's the other way around. You take the premium, but your moment of truth really comes true when your customer is facing a traumatic situation. Either through a catastrophe or through a road accident, they really come to a point where they are flustered and calling you as an insurance company to help them out in that period of need. And so for us, AI is something that's really helping us change that experience to become a better customer experience. Not just the past information, but ensuring the right tonality, becoming more empathetic, helping them provide answers even before they are looking to ask those questions is where AI is really helping us do. On the more talked about productivity improvement side, yes, we are also going through GitHub Copilot and Copilot in general in the way we help look towards it. But I feel that we are also restrained by our own thinking. And that's where I keep going to say, we are still looking at that 10% RPA turbocharged solution, then looking at it completely in a different way. And I think somewhere it's also our own personal insecurity. The goal has become more to say, do we have 1 million people working in India or 2 million? And suddenly where we have this technology coming in, we'll say, do you need 2 million people to be doing that job? Is really not getting us the best result. So I personally feel there's a lot more opportunity and we'll need to push boundaries that we haven't.
Yeah. So for us in Samsung, when we started the GCC, we had to understand, like they also have other development center that is in their Vietnam and China. So how India can be differentiated? So what we focused on from initial days, like we'll actually try to cater to the niche technology area. So more of a strategic GCC rather than all delivering the commodity skills or operation project only. So the focus is in our cases in India GCC, it is primarily we are catering to the niche technology area. Now coming back to the AI focus, this is part of our day-to-day job because being a Korean company, when we have to interact with our headquarters, most of the meetings happen in Korea. So when I attend or our Indian colleagues attend, we actually have a co-pilot which actually translates in real time in the meeting also. Like we have a product called BT Copilot where actually this translation happens online and real time. And so that is part and parcel of our process. When we actually also send any mail or everything, it is in English that gets translated in Korea and gets delivered. So that is one part of it. Second thing is on the process part, right from our onboarding, like hiring. Everything is done through our one, means we have developed a agentic AI where actually this is done. Plus, in being a Korean company, we have lots of security restrictions. Compliance, etc. is there. So for example, we have a laptop takeout approval, we have other approval, and those things are currently done by agentic AI, which actually earlier was done by our admin team or maybe our HR or support team, which we call. So similarly, on the third area where we deliver like project, in the project we have for the developers and the reviewers, we have the things called AI Pro, where actually this is code generator, code reviewer, lots of things are there. Additionally, productivity improvement is one of the focus for our GCC. And for that, what we have done through agentic AI, we have actually started based on quality enablement productivity. Means it is not that if somebody is working for 8 hours, that is more of utilization. But out of 8 hours, how many productive times that is happened? And for that, we have a kind of, in some cases, we have done analysis. It is more of average 6 hours the people are actually spending on doing the productive work. And based on that, how the delivery and what are the defect density and all those things, based on that, we are coming up with our productivity improvement framework through agentic AI. So I should say it's people, process, and project. All these areas we are covering while we are enabling our GCC with AI-enabled GCC. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Pretty consistent responses, if I were to say. Let me now start from you, Sanjay. If you have to identify, I mean, the GCC industry has been hugely successful in the last 5 years. If you have to identify, potential risks to the industry, what would they be? The second is, what do you think are the mitigating factors for the same? And third, whether it's a risk or not a risk, but I just thought I'll club this, is to say, is talent or oblique skilling a challenge for you at this stage? And again, I'll roll this question through.
So I think you have actually hit on the right thing. Like one of our major challenges, one is keeping our new generation motivated, like that people, the talent motivated. Plus second thing is being a niche skill area GCC to get the talent from the right area. Like for example, what was happening, like if we are going for the niche skill technology hiring, we are getting first question is whether I will be allowed to work from home or not. Now that's one of the major challenges because culturally, in a Korean company, we are prefer the people work from office. And though we have 3-2 policy right now, hybrid model, but for this niche technology, we have, in specific cases, we have to actually hire people from other location. Because say in Gurgaon, we don't have the people in certain technology. So we have to hire people from Bangalore. So there we have to negotiate on their work from home kind of policy. Second thing is, there are lots of challenges on the last minute back out. Like people are taking the offer and then at the last moment on the day of joining, actually they are moving out. So that's another thing. So these are the one is the talent risk. Second is the continuity. Like as I mentioned, my initial thing that there are 4 C's. The fourth point is the continuity, like continuous innovation and also keeping the momentum going. Because when you start a GCC, you will have lots of energy, you will have lots of vision, you make a kind of vision, let's say for 2030, but keeping that momentum ongoing and also have a strategic roadmap to follow that, that is also important thing. And another thing, being a Korean company, we've also found that cultural integration, one of the important thing. Like how to, like if I am in giving a, let's say, presentation to our leadership, if I say it will give you 15 to 20%, in an American context, it might be okay. But in a kind of Korean context, it will be, they will ask you whether it is 15 or is it 16, be specific. So that is a kind of challenge and the cultural integration we have to integrate to. Thank you.
For us, and you know, I may end up responding in a slightly different way, Rajiv, to the way you had the question in there. But the two things that I'd like to touch on is a challenge in operating in the environment that we are today, and then on the talent side of the equation in there. Top of mind for us today is the geopolitical scenario and the certainty around things that have come up. And it might very well be just because of what's happened and the set of events that have happened in the last few months. But this never used to be the top contender as far as the conversation within the company is concerned. And so I feel there is a lot of, there's a need to get an education up and going much more widely, whether it is about the geography of the country, the history of the company, or even the economics in there, and ensure that we have the right message and a consistent message that's really flowing out. Our challenge in the last month has been not just around information, but also a lot around misinformation that has been flowing through. And so how do you really gist that out and help people have a better risk view to all and everything that we are doing is important. Also, in a global scenario with a lot that is currently charged and tariffs being a primary question in there, I think in multiple ways, when I look towards tariff, or even if I look towards compliance and taxation that we have within the country, shouldn't end up becoming weaponized towards the ease of doing business. So the more we can do to take that off the table, the more we can do to make compliance manageable and cost-effective and ensure that taxation is more easily understood, will really help us, you know, somewhere in there I'll weave in the permanent establishment threat in there as well, because more and more we want to become global, yet we do feel challenged at times in the way we operate. And the last that I'll put in is around data and IP, and just having a consistent way in which we look towards data and privacy and the global IP laws. That to me is a challenge that we are doing. On the talent side of things, and I go back 25, 30 years back, or for the early part of my GCC career, attrition used to be the first question that people would come up with. It's almost like saying, what is your current attrition that is in there? I don't see that conversation happening as much anymore. And the experience also isn't around a 20 or a 30% attrition, and every company has a different experience, but is in the low single or mid-teens as a number. Now, you could argue whether that's healthy or not, but some of it is part of the business. Talent and that part of the equation to me is how do we go further upstream and participate to ensure that people understand and build a domain. How do we really go, like for us in Allstate, everybody who joins us needs to go through multiple certifications to understand insurance. We have internally set up what we call as Allstate Insurance and Domain University. Now, this is something that we should be able to work through. There are a lot of banking insurance players who work with US as a geography. And how do we really go about ensuring that many of this is something that's already given as they come in? Because the differentiator for us in talent will be the domain, not just the tool or the current technology that's in there. So that's where I would invest.
Great. I didn't realize geopolitics is, I mean, I remember 2 months back, one of our global clients, which was looking at setting up a large GCC in India for the first time, asked me about geopolitics, someone from the risk team. And I said, I won't put that in the top 5 risks. So I won't really worry about it. But things change fast. Arun.
Yeah, sure. So look, I think just to add to Sanjay and Tane, I think from a challenges standpoint, I think the first challenge for all the GCCs, I think, is just staying relevant. Because I think you've got to be solving the biggest problems that your global business is dealing with and whatever changing environment they are dealing with. I think for that, I'll give you an example. We had pandemic lockdowns happened globally across, every geography. We had, customers reaching out to the bank, and suddenly our contact centers were down because people were not able to go to contact center and and people had to work from home. We didn't have, at that time, a work from home solution for contact center. And we in India pivoted our workforce to messaging and being able to chat with customers. And we were the first one to get it up and running. And suddenly we had like 1,000 people available on chat to talk to our customers. So that was a problem that the bank globally was dealing with. And we had a solution, and we were able to deploy, train our people, deploy that all remotely and get it up and running. So, so that's, I think, just being that, having that combination of agility and having that finger on the pulse in terms of what are the top problems that the, global organization and the business leadership is dealing with is important. And the second I would say is that, in that is just having a much more domain-aligned view of, making sure that your talent is much more domain-aligned. So, we make it a point to, for all our employees, for them to really understand that how does the business that you're working in, how does it make money? What are really the end customers you are servicing? What are the friction points they are facing? And, how do you and how can you in the whatever process you're dealing with contribute in eliminating those friction points? So we have set up customer experience labs here, for example, because we, as Barclays, we don't have retail banking presence in the country. So people can go into those labs and see how a customer journey, for us is versus some of our peers in the UK or some of our, Indian banks, how do they deal with it? So you can compare and contrast and see, what, here are the 5 things we can do better. And those are the problems that you want to solve for. So those are the sort of things, how do you stay relevant? How do you stay focused on solving the biggest issues and, and pivoting to those now, agentic AI or, training or reskilling the workforce to be upskilled in AI tools, that's clearly something on the horizon. And that's again something we are dealing with at scale.
So it's difficult to add what all the speakers have. No, but maybe a quick one. I think for long business continuity as a rationale for the enterprise and then leading that to a concentration risk, I think that's a always topic that many of the corporates or enterprise, the parent companies, they have this on the table. I think with the geopolitical and also the protectionist measures that's going around in the world, I think those developments have brought this topic now very much on the table in the current setup. So I think that's definitely one risk that I see from outside in perspective. If you ask me from internal perspective, I think 90% of our cost base is talent. And this is where our energy has to go there, in a sense, to continue to engage and bring in and protect the talent we have. And especially at Novartis or in pharma, in Hyderabad, we have a massive challenge. In a sense, for long, we were one of the only pharma GCC or a company that was there in terms of setup. But suddenly, in the last 2-3 years, we have out of top 10, 7 companies setting up shop there. So obviously, we have become a university for all others to hire, and that's where we have our biggest challenge as well. From the reskilling perspective, I think we see it as a more opportunity. I think with the AI, as a lot of discussions is happening, we clearly see that as a big opportunity. I think given the functional knowledge and the industry knowledge with being there now from the GCC perspective for 15 plus years, I think the huge amount of knowledge on the processes and within the company and industry knowledge, a lot of our employees they have. And with relatively young age, we have a unique proposition to turn that into our advantage from being the hub, transformation hub, or bringing this technology on AI and agentic AI for the enterprise. So we are looking at it from that way, and from that perspective, I think a huge amount of efforts needs to go on the reskilling side. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll have to wrap up the session. I've got a signal that our next session, people have come, honorable ministers here. But I just want to thank the panel. We have almost 65,000 people in India in the global in our global capability center, and I would echo a lot of thoughts of what all of you shared. I think the quality of talent, the depth, and with all of you now going deeper into domain, much more integrated with the center, trying to be relevant, being the front edge on agentic AI, on AI, and leading the way. I think that's the trend that all of us are seeing. So thank you so much for your engagement, and thank you all for your comments. I did want to ask one second question, which is I'm often asked by my global board. If you have to take a call, and just 1 second each, number of people that you have in India today, 3 years from now, how much percentage more, same or less it would be? Just 1 second.
I will say same.
I would say maybe 15-20% less.
I would say that almost 40% will be doing something very different.
As we are pretty new, so maybe 10 to 15% less. Yeah.
Anyway, that's quite, I would have thought that, yeah, that's the question that a lot of people are asking. So on that, I think that sets up the agenda for our next conversation to say what do we do as a country to see that this momentum continues. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you to all our distinguished speakers for sharing their valuable insights. I request everyone to kindly step forward for a group picture. As a token of appreciation, also, we would now like to present a small memento to each of our speakers. I would like to request our President-designate, Mr. Rajiv Memani, to kindly hand over the mementos to our speakers.
Pleasure meeting. Thank you. Sorry, I had few more questions.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you everyone. Thank you for your time. I request everyone to kindly be seated. We'll be starting our next session in few minutes.